Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You find yourself at the Livingston County Board of Commissioners meeting for May 28th, 2024. As chair, I'm calling the meeting to order a little bit after 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Commissioner Gross, would you lead us in a moment of prayer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please bow your heads. Good and gracious God, we thank you first and foremost for the awesome gift of life. Without that, none of us would be here. We thank you for creating us in your image and likeness. And we wish we would have gotten a little bit more wisdom, perhaps. But help us as we deliberate the items that come before us for consideration and approval. We thank you for helping our ancestors to recognize the gift of many of our citizens in the past, of their lives, their bodies, in volunteering to defend our nation against all enemies, domestic and foreign. Many of us have lost relatives to wars, and this past weekend we remembered them and their sacrifice. May we never ever forget what they have done for us. They've ensured that we may continue to live in freedom, that we may continue to enjoy rights and privileges of a citizenship in this country, that we may celebrate and participate in the religion of our choice, that we may at times voice our approval or disapproval of many issues, that we have the ability to voice our opinions for any matter. In all of that, we thank you for all of the gifts that you have given us, especially my colleagues on this board who bring talents to our deliberations and our considerations as we work valiantly to continue the mission statement of our county, which I will read as follows. Mission statement of our county says, and I quote, "It's the mission of Livingston County to be an effective and efficient steward in delivering quality services within the constraints of sound fiscal policy. Our priority is to provide mandated services which may be enhanced and supplemented to improve the quality of life for all who work, reside, and recreate in this beloved county. We thank you, Lord, for our presence in this county. Amen."
Amen. Would you now rise? Clerk Hundley, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please proceed with roll call?
Commissioner Drick,
Present.
Commissioner Helserman,
Present?
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Here.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Here.
Commissioner Deaton,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Fiani,
Here.
Commissioner Gross.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of said agenda. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Motion by Fiani, support by Helserman. Any observations, questions, discussion? Seeing none, all those voice vote in favor kindly say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 9-0, it's unanimous. We have an agenda. Item number 6 will be correspondence A through D. May I get a motion? What's your pleasure?
Move to receive and place on file these correspondence.
Is there a second?
Support Deaton.
Thank you. Moved by Helserman, support by Deaton to receive and place A through D on file. Comment, question, analysis? Seeing none, voice vote. All those in favor kindly say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 9-0, unanimous. Item number 7, employee recognition. Commissioner Deaton, do you want to start? Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Domas. My mistake.
It's close.
Just begin with D.
Deputy Nicholas. You don't mind, I'm gonna step on, stand on the step. He makes me feel like a little guy too. I read this recognition statement earlier today, and never ceased to be amazed. Deputy Haggerty has been employed by the Livingston County Sheriff's Department in the Corrections Division for 7 years. The Employee Recognition Committee has made the following assessment. Nothing catches the eye like saving someone's life. If that doesn't deserve recognition, what does? But the committee felt that there was more to it than just that. There was grace under pressure, flawless application of technique under the most stressful of circumstances, demeanor that allowed clear thinking to apply the maneuver, continue assisting, and to call for medical evaluation. But the nominator mentioned something else, and that is interaction with inmates in unpredictable situations. This is among the toughest jobs out there. And when a situation does arise, you need to be able to rise above, think clearly, act quickly, and according to protocol. Deputy Haggerty did just this, like the professional that he is. And the committee felt he deserved recognition for his actions. Nick was nominated by his supervisor, who was privy to the following event. On February 9th, Deputy Haggerty saved the life of a detainee while conducting security checks in the male medium security area of the Livingston County Jail. Deputy Haggerty viewed the choking inmate. Without delay, he administered the Heimlich maneuver. Proper technique was utilized and the blockage was cleared. Deputy Haggerty continued to assist and called for a medical evaluation. The elderly inmate was evaluated and cleared. I have witnessed Deputy Haggerty interact with many types of inmates in unpredictable situations. This example is just one of the many that should be recognized. Deputy, it's my pleasure to present you this recognition for your outstanding. I don't have
Stand
a
behind
step
him, Dave.
that lifts me up. Just have to take my word for it. He's much taller than I am. Is that it? I didn't see any flash.
Thank you so much.
Whoops, sorry, go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you for your work.
And no, Mike, he did not reserve his speaking to you.
Oh, yeah, I'm taking his time.
Okay. Commissioner Nakagiri, you're next up. Thank you.
I don't need this stuff here, but, and you know, if you could join me up there, I'd really appreciate it. It is quite an honor to present this employee recognition to Danielle Reisacker-Keel. Danielle is somebody that I met, I believe it was in your first week here. And I suspected she would be a fabulous employee because we were bantering back and forth and we didn't even know each other. And so, but anyway, Danielle has been with us for just over 6 months. She's a election specialist, deputy clerk. It is her job to provide information and assistance to elected officials, other agencies, candidates, and others regarding the election process, as well as serve as a backup to the elections coordinator. She also performs all duties of a vital records clerk when assigned to that division. So Danielle received an astounding 5 nominations for an employee with just 6 months of service. The 5 nominations really caught the eye of the committee, especially when they came from both employees and the public. The Employee Recognition Committee felt that Danny's nominations cover all the characteristics that the county would want to see in somebody who serves the public. Professionalism, friendliness, and enthusiasm, a delight to work with, has a passion for her work, is very helpful, thorough, and explains the process to put citizens at ease, goes above and beyond accommodating special requests, and provides excellent service. Danny's work, as illustrated throughout the 5 nominations and summarized here, is a spot-on example of public service in action, putting the citizen first and making their visit to us pleasant and stress-free. Danny was voted to win this quarter's Employee Recognition Award. I thank you very much for your service. Would like to call County Clerk Betsy Hundley up here because she would like to say a few words.
I'll stay over here. I have my own microphone, but no, I truly, Danny is such an asset. This is the type of employee that the county really needs to recognize and appreciate. She's got, her potential for growth is unlimited. I see very good things on this young lady's horizon, and it's a pleasure to have her in the clerk's office. So thank you, Danny.
Yeah. I gotta put on the stack, right?
All right, everybody smile. 1, 2, 3. Here's another one for safety. 1, 2, 3. And one more just cause. 1, 2, 3. There you go.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well done. Good to see you guys. Good to see you out of the office, my outreach. Thank you so much. It's good to see you. Thank you, guys.
Great job.
Thank you.
No, you know why I never get any tickets in this town. That's the secret.
The next item on our agenda is item number 8, call to the public. This is where people in the public can talk to the board, give us information, and they have 3 minutes to do so. There's a second call, I believe, at the end, item number 14, but this is the first of the 2. Is there anybody in the room that's given any cards in?
I do have several. The first is Ella Nicotin from Heartland Township, going to be followed by Gordon Munsell.
When you're seated and comfortable, you may begin.
Thank you. My name is Ellen Yakitin. I'm from Heartland Township. I want to take a moment to discuss the new developments in public transit around Southeast Michigan. So a few months ago, Washtenaw County opened a new bus line. Next month, Smart is actually going to be operating a new bus route on M59 starting on June 24th. Unfortunately, that's entirely within Oakland County, but it's creeping ever closer to us. And MTA Flint, up in Flint, is actually starting to discuss opening new regional routes to surrounding counties because they're realizing they're going to need to bring in thousands of new workers for new projects. And yet here we are in Livingston County, and we still don't have the Grand River Avenue bus route that, it has been shown that this bus route could be a significant improvement here 5 years ago. And it still hasn't been made a reality, unfortunately. I'm sure that the people at Lutz are working very hard to do what they can with the amount of money they're given. But, when the Board of Commissioners only wants to put only 65,000 a year into public transit, it really shows. I think we need to prioritize public transportation more in our county, like the surrounding counties are doing. They're opening new bus routes, improving existing service. And here we still only have dial-a-ride. And, we're relying on the townships to pay for stuff. Thank you.
Gordon Munsell from Handy Township, followed by Stephanie Miklas.
Good evening. I guess I was asked by my supervisor to come here tonight, kind of in the dark about a lot of things. I talked with Doug and Frank and Nick back in the quarters a little bit. And I guess it's some question over the funding for some of the things that's going on in Handy Township. And I guess if there's any questions I can answer for you, I'd be glad to do it. I don't know that much. I mean, I know about the projects and I know what we've discussed with the Drain Commission and Brian and Rob Spalding. Frank and Doug and I have talked for almost 2 years. And so this phone call tonight was kind of a surprise to me. So if there's any questions you got for me, I'd sure be able to give you my insight and let you know what's going on. I've been on the township since 2008, so I got an idea what's going on. So, thank you. Okay. Yes, that's.
Stephanie Miklas from City of Howell, followed by Denise O'Connell.
Good evening. Just wanted to kind of dovetail on what Ella was saying about public transportation. I have lived in poverty in this county most of my time. And I think, a lot of people that would like to come back and live here, maybe that have children here, maybe they want their children to come back and live and make a living, and they can't really afford to because insurance costs are high. They can't ride their motorcycle in the winter, putting kind of a lot of people at risk by not allowing public transportation. I live on Maple Street, which is across the street from Navarus, the company that buses people from Flint. I'd like to make a comment too on the environmental quality of air emanating from the company, which used to be known as Key Plastics. We're taking people from the one of the most impoverished cities in the state, and then, they're working in these, I don't know how safe it is. Maybe it's met a standard of safety, but that's a different factor, which I think is somewhat concerning. Not only that, but diamond chrome plating presents a lot of environmental problems. In my view, they're right next to a nice hometown baseball field. And I think they both deserve good scrutiny. So those I think should be taken seriously. I'm appalled at all the accidents that happen and deaths on this road, and even kids trying to cross the street on the bike. And just people that have to get to work that may rely on a bike or walking or Uber if they can. I think, we've made it clear in our plan that we would like public transportation not funded at 3%, but maybe at the max of 15%, which is allowable. And I had the chance to attend a Heartland School Board meeting, even though I'm not, really associated with the school, but I got a look at the extremism there. And it was really concerning. I don't think a lot of it was what's going on there is legal. I hope this FOIA thing turns out the truth. My final paper when I graduated from Central Michigan University was the high rate of suicide in lesbian, gay, teenagers and people in general. If it's going to be perceived as a mental health problem to be what you are born as, of course, they're going to react accordingly and take it upon themselves. Prince Philippe I of France was a great fighter in the army. He was Louis XIV's brother. So they're capable and, they do a lot of good things in our society, So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Denise O'Connell from Heartland, followed by Yvonne Black.
Good evening, Commissioners. How are you?
Good evening.
I'm asking all of you to take the needed time to finish the SRS process problem resolution that's been lingering for well over a year. I think it's closer to 2 years now. It's the lack of this attention to an issue that my residents are experiencing the costs because it hasn't been resolved. And it's one of the reasons that people don't like government. We don't move fast enough for something like this that's been going on for decades. The DRP, Dispute Resolution Panel, came up with a very reasonable compromise for everyone involved. Quite frankly, I was kind of surprised that during one of the infrastructure meetings several months ago, it was on the agenda, then it was not on the agenda. And that was months ago, and it hasn't been addressed at all in any meeting that I'm aware of. And I have the feeling, as well as probably many of people in my community feel, that it's not an issue for you. It's an issue for us, for our people in the district that are paying extra money to float. I'll just leave. Yeah, to float the SRS. That's what it comes down to. I would like the public to understand that Wes Nakagiri, my commissioner, has been on this for over 3 years, trying to get the answers to the questions that he wants. He's talked to the drain commissioner. He's attended many of the department DPW meetings as trying to get answers. He's come up with his own solutions for this and trying to get help from the board to get it resolved. I really commend my commissioner, Wes. Thank you. I'm not sure the board is aware, but the judge in this has recused himself recently. So now this is going to have to go to another county. It is not a good look for the county. And And then on a side note, I look at the agenda tonight, I thought the board just kind of approved the whole budget process. And we have the drain commissioner asking for $1.7 million for projects in the county. He didn't know this was coming up over the last couple of months, years. One of them I know has been going on for years. It's now the time to rectify the situation, and I hope that the whole board would take this matter seriously and come to a resolution. Thank you so much.
Yvonne Black from Marion Township, followed by Chuck Wright.
Commissioner Gross, I want to thank you for your prayer because it hits home with my message tonight. So I say anything repeated can be considered a pattern of design or a pattern of actions. A pattern of abuse from law enforcement against citizens is a very concerning pattern, especially from a liability perspective. There are good people and rotten apples. Yvonne Black believes that a Livingston County Sheriff's deputy assaulted a woman who was seated on the pew in front of her in the public gallery of the 53rd District Courtroom. When Yvonne Black assisted this assault victim, this deputy retaliated against her, escalated the situation, become unnecessarily hostile and aggressive toward her, unlawfully seized her, arresting her, and forcibly removed her from the courtroom and handcuffed her. In handcuffs, she was taken to the jury room. A different deputy unlawfully removed this deputy's handcuffs and replaced him with his own and submitted what she believes is a false police report to the prosecutor's office. And Yvonne Black was charged with assault and obstructing. She has been subjected to 19 months of malicious prosecution aided by Livingston County judges. Some people believe Yvonne Black should take a plea deal, walk away, and end this nightmare. And some people think she should expose the sheriff's department. Because of this malicious prosecution, Yvonne decided to attend a jury trial. A man had been charged with felonious assault. A Livingston County negotiation team and SWAT team had been deployed to his home. The sheriff's department misinformed the media. A warrant for this deployment was not sought nor issued, and there is no police report of this SWAT deployment against this citizen, no accountability to the public. In April of 2023, a sheriff's deputy was traveling south on Byron Road. He turned around and chased a vehicle that was traveling north. The northbound vehicle turned onto Mar Road, crashed, and caught on fire. The sheriff's department hailed him as a hero. There's no available police report of this incident, and the public has no idea of what actually transpired during this event. Yvonne Black and others in Livingston County strongly believe there is a pattern of unlawful actions, and this pattern of actions creates liability issues for the county, and the Board of Commissioners should be very concerned regarding the actions of the Sheriff's Department. Thank you.
Chuck Wright, Handy Township, followed by Barbara Tonkovich.
Hi, good evening. I know you got a lot on the agenda tonight, so I'll try to be quick. Back at the end of 2022, this board approved ARPA money for Handy Township's wastewater treatment plant sewer issue under Van Buren Road. That project was not achievable, and so that money hasn't been spent, and the township is asking to support two other projects that also need to be done. And I'd like the commissioners to approve that this evening. It's beneficial for the residents. For standard of safety, one is the sewer treatment plant, which currently has one of their two RBCs damaged and non-functioning. And so there is currently no backup. And if the other one was to fail, there'd be some issues that would show up fairly quick in people's basements and be quite a health issue. So Handy could certainly use the help. And I appreciate you gentlemen looking into it and taking care of it this evening. Thank you.
Barbara Tonkovich from Genoa Township.
Thank you. I thought the meeting started at 6:30.
Okay, many people are not aware of the planned development being proposed by a land developer at the intersection of I-96 and Lotson Road. The developer was able to get the zoning planning commission to recommend and the current board of trustees to approve rezoning hundreds of acres of farmland from 5-acre country estates, homes on land, to interchange campus. The developer has proposed medical offices, hospitality, possible restaurants, and a 200,000 square foot freight shipping and receiving warehouse with semi trucks that will operate 24/7. Lotson Road will need to be expanded to accommodate the expected traffic increase, and the last traffic study that I saw showed significant congestion during rush hour traffic already, which I've been part of. And the reason why I was bringing it to you all is because the Livingston County Road Commission will possibly be involved in this because of Lotson Road. We will become another Novi if this keeps happening. This is not an issue that affects one political party and not the other. This affects us all, the citizens of Genoa Township and our neighboring communities. This should be a vote of the communities being affected, not just a few individuals on these different boards that may have some hidden agenda or something at stake. Can this be stopped and changed to a vote for the people? This is really, really serious. We wanted to live in a rural type community, and I've been here since '79, and it's just astounding. Thank you.
I have no additional cards.
Thank you. Kristen, is there anyone you see on Zoom?
No, Commissioner, I do not.
Thank you. With that, we will close this evening's call to the public, and we will go to item number 9. It's written as approval of minutes, ABC. A reads meeting minutes dated April 22, 2024. 9B reads meeting minutes dated May 13, 2024. And 9C reads closed session minutes dated May 13, 2024.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second, Sample.
Motion by Commissioner Fiani, second by Commissioner Sample. Any discussion, analysis, objection? Seeing none, we'll go to a voice vote for 9A through C. All those in favor, kindly say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. 9-0. Thank you kindly. We'll go on to agenda number 10. Tabled items from previous meetings. I understand there are none, but if a commissioner wants to remind me, that's fine. We'll go with no tabled items for 10. Item number 11, reports. If there's a commissioner that would like to report to the board. First, Commissioner Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Some of you know I sit on the Economic Development Council, which is a subcommittee of the Ann Arbor Spark. They are our economic development vehicle for the county. We no longer have a staff to do this, effective 2011. I believe with the retirement of Fred Dillingham, we opted into the Spark program. We are a contributor to that financially as a county. There's a budget line item. It's been about $175,000 for the last, I want to say 5 years roughly, certainly the last 4 years. People say, what do we get out of this? 175,000 is a lot of money. Well, 175,000 represents 0.2% of our budget. So it's a lot of money, but in relative terms, it's not a monster investment by our community. So what have we gotten in return? Well, for example, in 2023, there was roughly $70 million of capital improvement for economic development purposes in the county. One of our major employers in the city of Howell, Thai Summit, has expanded their employee base by 40 people alone just this last year. There are 29 projects pending in our pipeline for Livingston County. And these are all flowing through the Ann Arbor Spark Livingston County EDC. So what people may not know, or what they may only see, is these large projects. But what they don't see is the resources that we and our small businesses get through the Ann Arbor Spark are just tremendous. Everything from assistance in hiring employees, website design, website upgrades, website security, email security. These are often unthought of, but very important things for these small businesses, and they're very costly for these small businesses to hire out. And as a result of our investment, we provide all our community businesses access to this. They visit what they call retention calls. They go out to all the employers in the area, and I can tell you in the first quarter of this year, I was a part of several of those calls, and from Handy Township down to Green Oak Township and everywhere in between and around the area. I think we hit 16 different employers in the area just in the first quarter. So I know there's always concern about growth. I think we've done a reasonable job of managing growth and planning for growth. I hope we continue, and I'll try to update the Board of Commissioners more on the progress of the EDC.
Thank you for that report. Commissioner Deaton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I sit on the Livingston County Veterans Memorial Committee, like yourself. And I just wanted to thank all the citizens of Livingston County for their big hearts in donating funds. We reached our goal to revamp the Veterans Memorial from the old courthouse. And I want to give a special thanks out to Director Ramon Baca, who grabbed the bull by the horns and kind of guided us all as we went through different types of funding options and looking at vendors. And it was about a meeting about once a month since December. So I just want to give the public a big thank you from all of us.
Thank you for that report. Any other reports, any commissioners? Commissioner Nakagiri, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I wanted to report to my colleagues. I attended the Michigan Association of Counties Conference a few weeks ago. There was a question that was on my mind that I had an opportunity to ask, and that is with regards to court funding. Because there is still discussion. It's in committee. It's uncertain when that legislation might be passed, but it would have the state of Michigan take over the funding of the local trial courts. As part of that program, if it moves forward, I asked the question, will there be a maintenance of effort contribution from the counties, which the answer is likely. And what does that mean? That means that they would likely take whatever the county is contributing to the courts currently, an average of the last 3 years, and that, the county would be, I'll say, on the hook into perpetuity to pay that amount of money, and then probably some inflation factor. It's very similar to the public defender's office, where we took an average of 3 years of what we were paying for indigent defense at a county level, and then we pay that every year, and then it goes up 3% a year for inflation. So what does that mean? I have mentioned recently, and I've mentioned in the past, that the courts, according to their own studies by the State Court Administrative Office, by the National Center for State Courts, are well overstaffed in specifically the area of judicial officers, also known as quasi-judicial officers. Their studies show that we need 4 in our court system. We have 12. So that's we're overstaffed by a factor of 3. What does that mean? It's about $1 million a year. I had run the numbers with by our director of personnel and summed up all of the compensation and the benefits. So it's $1 million a year. If we choose not to do anything about that, and the courts have been very recalcitrant to follow the advice of their own specialists, their own experts. But if we choose to let that go forward, our taxpayers are going to be on the hook into perpetuity for an extra $1 million a year. Money that could be used on other things Public safety comes to mind as a higher priority than paying for 12 when we only need 4. So that's something that I will be pursuing budgetarily because I don't want to be saddling our children and grandchildren, future generations of Livingston County citizens with paying for something because we chose and the courts chose not to do anything about it. Thank you very much.
Any further or other reports? Seeing none, we're on to item number 12. And this evening, day after his birthday, it will be Commissioner Gross that will handle the resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we get started, I'd like to remind my colleagues and also members in the audience that we have a somewhat lengthy agenda of resolutions tonight. So I ask you to be patient and I ask my colleagues to let's try to move through these resolutions as expeditiously as we can. Having said that, we'll get started. First resolution number 12A. It comes to us from equalization. It's a resolution approving the 2024 county millage. Do I hear a motion to discuss and approve?
So move, Helserman.
Support. I'm sorry, who was the support? Mr. Jones, thank you. Sue Bostwick, you're welcome to come up and lay it on us.
I bring before you the millage rate for, this is a general, our operating millage that we need as soon as possible. It goes on the July tax bill. So we don't have any time to wait on this. And we just, our allocated amount was just set today. So that's good. That's at the 5 mils. We are down to 3.1947 mils. That's because of Headley and the rollback that proceeds. So this goes against this year's budget that we did. And I'm asking for your support for that.
Any questions from my colleagues? I have one. In your memo of support for the resolution, you indicated that the report was going to go to the allocation board today. Has that been done?
Yes, that's where we got the 5 from. So it just rolls. Headley is continual year after year. So back to 78, I believe it is. Yeah. Those are all applied to that 5 mils.
And this millage rate still keeps our county as the lowest tax rate in the state?
I believe it does. Now, I mean, there's a good gap between us and the next person down. They would have to see an extraordinary rate reduction in order to even come close to what we have. Okay. So I don't believe what Headley measures. Are they on cappings? When a property sells the following year, it uncaps, all except for the CPI, whatever that happened to be. It was 5% last year. So that 5% is taken out. Anything over and above that is calculated in this Headley rollback. So, and that's the way Headley works. That's the only thing that goes into Headley now after Proposal A.
Anything else from anybody? In that case, I will call a vote. All in favor of the resolution?
Yeah, roll call.
It doesn't say that.
Yeah, it does.
Not on my agenda. Okay, I beg your pardon. My agenda does not have that. We'll have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gross.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you.
Need a signature.
We'll get this rolling.
I've already signed.
Mr. Chair, just a point of order, the doors should be open back here. I think somebody closed the doors for noise out there, but they really should be open. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is 12B. Comes to us from administration. It's a resolution authorizing Livingston County's 2025 annual budget process and calendar. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Support, Helserman.
Okay. Any questions for Nathan at this point? Anything really important you need to mention?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not really important, but it's a change, and I just wanted to make you aware of it. It's not a huge thing, but typically we hold the required public hearing the night of the level 5 budget vote. And Cindy and I have been talking about this for a couple of years now, and we really felt more comfortable with doing that the night of the level 4 vote. And the reason for that is it allows, if you get public input, you would actually have time to incorporate that into the budget. Whereas now, that input comes right before your final vote. And so that's the only real change to this, is just that we think that that'll allow for a better process if there are comments from the public on the budget the night of that hearing. So that's the only real change to this, other than the dates being updated for this year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions, my colleagues? I have one comment I'd like to share. On the time schedule of the calendar on page 3 of the resolution, there are 4 dates that are designated as work sessions. Those work sessions are intended for us as a board. June 12th, September 11th, September 18th, and September 25th. I would urge my colleagues to please do your very best to try to attend those work sessions. Having said that, I have to apologize because I will be out of town on June 12th.
That's our fault. We're sorry about that.
So in my absence, I'm sure you will all do a splendid job. With that, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
and Commissioner Drick.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is item 12C. It's a resolution coming to us from Fiscal Services. It's a resolution authorizing the reallocation of remaining ARPA dollars for several approved ARPA projects. Do I hear a motion?
So move, Sample. Support, Helserman.
Okay. Is Cindy going to join us via Zoom? You know?
She is not here tonight. I can do my best.
Okay. Are there any questions on this resolution from my colleagues?
I have a question. With after this reallocation, it's my understanding that everything ARPA-wise will be allocated, that there's no more to allocate. Is that correct?
That is correct. And that's really the purpose of this, is we don't want to get caught later in the year without having allocated our ARPA funding. So this would allocate everything that we have up to this point. It would transfer some funds in Division Tour from the things that are being covered in the general fund. So yeah, this follows along with the pattern and the process that we've been supporting since we received the funding.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, have another roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is resolution item number 12D. It's a resolution that comes to us from Court Central Services, a resolution authorizing specialty courts and programs to apply for the state court administrative office grants for fiscal year 2025. Your motion.
So move Deaton.
Support, Smith.
This resolution was reviewed and approved in committee. Any questions by anybody at all? And this appears not to be a roll call. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All in favor, so state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes. Thank you. Next on the agenda is resolution item 12E. Comes to us from the Health Department. It's a resolution to reorganize the hearing and vision coordinator position.
So moved.
Support, Helserman.
Mr. Bowling is here. Does anybody have any questions for him? This was also reviewed and approved in committee. Hearing none. This is a roll call vote also.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreck,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes,
and Commissioner Helserman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
resolution passes. Thank you. Next on the agenda, as we move right along, is 12F, as in Fred, comes to us from Carpool. Resolution authorizing an additional vehicle replacement lease for the Sheriff Field Services Division. Do I hear a motion?
Move it.
Support, Smith.
And Director Kellogg is here. Do anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask of him? You're off the hook. This is also a roll call vote. May we proceed with that, please?
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreck,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross.
Yes,
And Commissioner Helserman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
thank you. Next item on the agenda is 12G. It comes to us from Let's. It's a resolution authorizing a change in the 2024 budgeted dispatcher driver positions. Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Deaton.
Support, Helserman.
Moved by Deaton, supported by Helserman. Director Kellogg is here. Any questions? As I recall, this was also approved in committee. Seeing none and hearing none, this is also a roll call vote.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross.
Yes,
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas.
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
And Commissioner Drick.
Yes.
Motion carries.
thank you. The next resolution is 12H. Comes to us from Emergency Management. It's a resolution affirming the Livingston County Local Emergency Planning Committee for fiscal year 2024-25. Do I hear a motion?
Move the resolution, Mr. Chairman. Support, Deaton.
Okay, Director Tremonti is here. Anybody have any questions? I believe this also cleared committee.
I would just like to make some comments if I
Yes.
could. I am on this committee. I can't always attend this committee, but it's always, you always go away from this committee feeling good because we have such a good cooperation among these different positions across our county and led by Therese. Does a very good job with that. And if you ever want to feel good, you're feeling down a little bit, go to this. They'll tell you some bad stories, but they always have a good ending. So you may want to come with your handkerchief and cry a little bit, but you feel good at the end. So I appreciate this committee and its work. So.
Any other comments? This does not appear to be a roll call. So in that vein, I will ask all in favor, so state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution's approved. Next. Resolution 12I comes to us from Emergency Management. It's a resolution authorizing Livingston County to purchase an unmanned air system detection sensor utilizing the fiscal year 2022 Homeland Security Grant Program. Do I hear a motion?
Motion, Smith.
Second, Sample.
And again, Director Tremonti is here, but this was also discussed and approved in committee. Any further questions or comments? Anything to add, Director Tremonti? Does the sheriff wish to comment? Good. In that regard, this also is not a roll call, so I'll ask all in favor. So state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Resolution is approved. Next is Resolution 12J. Comes to us from Emergency Medical Services, EMS. Resolution authorizing the reclassification of the medical examiner investigator positions. Do I hear a motion?
So moved Eaton. Second, Sample.
Been moved by Deaton, supported by Sample. I saw Director Felposh was on Zoom. I think we discussed this in committee as well, or any further questions or comments? Commissioner Nakagiri.
This is just a comment. At the MAC conference, I ran across a company that does, medical examiner investigations over a number of counties, mostly in Michigan. They didn't, their service area didn't make it to Livingston County yet. I chatted with them. I said, well, when you get Livingston County, give me a ring. And so there's potential of looking at different ways of doing medical examiner investigations in the future. So I just wanted to share that with my colleagues and our Director Felposh. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Director Felposh, you have anything else to add?
Nope, well said.
Okay, this item is a roll call vote, and we have the roll call, please.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas.
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next resolution also comes to us from EMS, resolution number 12K. It's a resolution authorizing the EMS department to apply for the State of Michigan Emergency Medical Service Workforce Support Grant for 2025. Do I hear a motion?
So moved Eaton.
Support, Smith.
And as I recall, this also was approved in committee. Any further questions or comments? Director Felposh, anything to add on this one?
Nope.
Thank you. This, seeing no indication of questions or comments, we'll have a vote. This does not appear to be a roll call. So all in favor, so state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is approved, 9-0.
Thank you.
Next item is resolution 12L. It comes to us from the Sheriff's Department. A resolution authorizing renewal of an agreement for law enforcement services between the Livingston County Sheriff's Department and Putnam Township. Do I hear a motion?
So move Helserman. Second, Sample.
This also, I recall, was approved in committees. Any further questions, commentary? Hearing none, it's not a roll call. So all in favor, so state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution's approved. Next item, Resolution 12M. Also comes to us from the Sheriff's Department. It's a resolution authorizing the addition of field service uniformed deputies to the Livingston County Sheriff's Office. Do I hear a motion?
Motion Smith.
Support Dumas.
Got support by Mr. Smith and support by Domas. This was also discussed in committee, as I recall. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, seeing none. It's not a roll call vote. All in favor? Oh, I beg your pardon. It is a roll call. So maybe we have the roll call, please.
Yes. Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Resolution is approved. Thank you. And once again, moving along, next resolution is 12N as in Nora. Comes to us from the treasurer. It's a resolution authorizing the Livingston County Treasurer to establish the 2023 delinquent tax fund. Do I hear a motion?
So move, Helserman.
Support Dumas.
Okay. This also was discussed and approved in committee. The treasurer is here. Any questions for her while she's here? Any further commentary, Ms. Nash?
No, thank you. Not unless there's questions.
Good.
I would like to make a comment if I could, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
In our report, or for those of you who got this report online, the amount of our delinquent taxes in our county has remained about the same, which is good news for our county. We hope that the economy, as bad as it is, doesn't get worse. And this is one indication that our delinquent accounts have tracked about the same for the last, 10 years, something like that. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Must be the treasurer. They're just afraid of her.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, and this is not a roll call. All in favor, so state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution is approved. Next, resolution number 12O, also from the treasurer. It's a resolution authorizing the acceptance of donated funds on behalf of the Livingston County Animal Shelter. Do I hear a motion?
So move Dumas.
Second, Sample.
Moved by Commissioner Domas, supported by Frank Sample. Any comments or questions? Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yeah, I see the resolution says specifically to pay for food and medical expenses for animals. How will that be administered? I mean, so we have a budget for food, as part of the regular budget process. Are we gonna provide extra food for the animals? Are we gonna have plump dogs and cats, or how's that gonna work?
My thought is these funds will largely go to the medical costs. So I know that there are significant medical costs for the animals that are in the animal shelter. And so that can be administered and monitored by looking at the medical cost expense line, which is directly in the donation fund. We have it already set up. So we can net the revenue minus the expenses each year and determine how much is still remaining for that cost.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Okay, this one is a roll call. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
and Commissioner Helserman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Resolution 12P. Comes to us from Information Technology. It's a resolution authorizing the assumption of addressing responsibilities for Howell Township and amendment of the street naming and addressing policy. Do I hear a motion?
So move, Helserman.
Support Deaton.
This resolution was also discussed in committee and was approved. At that time, are there any questions or comments? During the committee process, I mentioned that I had had some recent experience with the readdressing of some homes in the mobile home parks down in Hamburg Township. It's my understanding that that project has been almost satisfactorily completed. There might still be a few homes that need to have their address documentation changed, but the changeover has, my understanding, has gone smoothly. The park management is very happy. The Hamburg Township is happy because the changes were made in time to facilitate their activity with respect to sending out absentee ballots. So kudos to the Information Technology Department, in particular to Leslie Kaufman in the GIS. She did a great job on that. I'd like to thank her. So this item is not a roll call. So we'll have a voice vote. All in favor, so state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? None. Thank you. Okay. Next item is resolution number 12Q. Comes to us from Information Technology. It's a resolution authorizing negotiations, agreements, and to apply for and accept grants, BEAD or other, for the Livingston County Public Safety, Educational, and Municipal Open Access Middle Mile Fiber Network. Do I hear a motion?
So move, Helserman.
Support Deaton.
We did discuss this in committee. Director Toby is here. Are there any further questions or comments on this? Commissioner Nakagiri.
Question for Director Toby. This came up in committee. I just want to confirm that your answer is the same as it was in committee. So with regards to the be it further resolved, the third from the bottom one says, be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners authorizes Livingston County staff to apply for and if awarded, accept the state of Michigan BEAD grant and other grants, and to apply for other applicable grants. That in committee, there was discussion about striking that because this be it further resolved is in there to give you the ability to move quickly for a grant. However, we do have a policy in place that enables you to move quickly for a grant. You can apply for a grant with the permission of the county administrator. However, the board would still retain its authority to accept the grant. Is that?
Commissioner Nakagiri, I am okay if the board wishes to strike that out of there. And thank you for sharing the updated policy information with me.
So I'm going to make a motion to amend the resolution to strike the third from the bottom, be it further resolved.
Second, Sample.
Support that amendment.
You got a third.
Yeah. Any discussion? If I may, I have one question. The word accept is kind of sprinkled through this. Should we perhaps address those as well, or is just that one paragraph you think that is adequate?
Yeah, my reading was that was the the third from the bottom was the one that could go and still give the director the flexibility he needs to move quickly if it came up, and provide the board with the authority to, review, make sure we want to accept it, so.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Add some if I could, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Helserman, go ahead.
I had quite a good discussion this afternoon with Director Toby. I'll be supporting this. I just want to give a little bit of history here. We had originally a $12 million commitment to fiber. We had a partner, and for some reason that did not work out. And we got a $3 million more to add. So this is putting a cap to what we can spend with this $15 million and some other money put in from other places. A scaled down model can be finished. I think it's important that we finish what we started. But I think in the future, some things will be self-evident as to what to do with this, the finished product. And there are several things that I don't know if Chris wants to deal, probably not now want to deal with it, but this is a lot of money and we want it to go to the best use. So thank you.
Thank you. I missed something. We had an amendment, motion to amend the resolution by deleting the third from the last paragraph. That was supported. And I think we need to vote on that. Correct?
Yep.
So all in favor of the proposed amendment, so state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the amendment is approved.
Discussion?
Next would be
Further discussion?
oh, okay.
I understand a consortium is going to be formed. Does it include the Board of Commissioners?
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
And then the other ones are named in the further resolved LESA, school districts and municipalities. Okay,
Correct.
now I get it. Thank you.
The consortium at this point in time would consist of LESA and Livingston County. So we're still working through the documents there. But it's similar to what we have right now and have had for the last 10 years.
Got it. Thank you.
And now we get to vote on the amended resolution. It does not require a roll call, so all in favor, so state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Amended resolution is approved.
Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate it. I'm going to pass out a update on the project for all of you to review as well.
With that, the next item on the agenda is Resolution 12R. Comes to us from the Drain Commissioner. It's a resolution authorizing general fund vision tour funds for the Drain Commissioner to participate with Handy Township in the Silver Springs Water Pressure Project and Van Buren Road wastewater treatment plant improvements.
Move, Helserman.
Second, Sample.
Been moved and seconded. So recall, we did talk about this in committee as well.
So
Could we ask Mr. Bunsell to come to the table if there's
Yes.
other questions? Thank you. This is a little different.
Director Recker, will you be substituting in for Director Spalding?
That's correct.
So it's my understanding that over the weekend, there were a lot of moving parts that came to light regarding this resolution. Are you up to speed on them?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I understand.
Microphone.
Thank you. Yes, I am somewhat up to speed on them in terms of the change in the funding source and doing the RBC and not the water booster portion of the project.
Would you be able to share with the board, or I spoke with trustee Munsell before the meeting, and I greatly appreciate your insight and sharing your knowledge. You did share that you actually as well were not aware that 100% of the funding was gonna actually now go towards the RBC as opposed to being split between the Silver Springs water pressure project and the RBC. I'm curious how. Yeah, I was curious how that came to be, or if you can share the background on that.
Well, what I'm aware of is that in looking at the two projects, the townships determined the RBC to be the more critical need. And if they don't have, knowing I've been out of the wastewater business for some time, but knowing what I do know, not having a second RBC, if that RBC they have does go down, it's not going to be a good situation either for the residents in Red Cedars, nor for the Red Cedar River that accepts that currently clean discharge from the treatment plant. You want to add anything else, Gordon?
No, outside, so I guess I got a question for you too on this end.
Yes.
What you're saying is you're gonna take all that money from the water plant on Silver Springs and put it towards the RBC now?
That was the direction that I felt we were getting from Supervisor Alverson earlier today.
Okay, I guess I talked to Nick and I talked to Frank and Doug, and that wasn't where I was at when I got to Gulf Med tonight. I thought we were splitting the money half, both of them, but
Mr. Chair.
maybe I'm out of the loop here somewhere, but I thought the last time we talked with you and Rob and Brian, that it was going half to each one of them, which is still gonna spend the whole money. It's no question about that. It's gone.
The money's needed for the improvements.
In my discussion, because, I've been in and out of this discussion all the time. And from what I have caught from Mr. Alverson, Supervisor Alverson, is that the amount is the critical thing. How it is divided is the smaller thing. The question is, can we, do we want to on the run change the whole amount to the water treatment plant as opposed to the water? Is there a reason why? What I heard was that there is a reason why we cannot do it directly to the township for a water supply problem. Is that your understanding, that there's some legal problem with splitting the amount?
My understanding was the legal problem wasn't with splitting the amount. The legal problem was with the use of Vision Tour funds, because these are, even though the wastewater treatment plant was originally constructed by the county, the township's paid off that debt and fully owns it now. So that was the problem that I was aware of. The water booster station issue is simply a pressure issue due to the distance away from the water source. So
Okay,
that's.
so is our administrator aware of this problem? Is this is legal aware of the problem of splitting and following the resolution as it is? What problems would arise if we follow the resolution as is?
It's not really a matter of splitting in terms of, all I can really speak to is ARPA. If ARPA is the funding source, it would have to be obligated by the end of this year. That's the timing challenge with ARPA. This project is eligible for ARPA funding. It would not be eligible if we were just using regular general fund dollars, though. That's the challenge. And so if there's confidence that the project can be obligated by the end of this year, ARPA is fine. If it can't be, then we would run into some challenges if the intent was to use Vision Tour. And I know that Mr. McNulty and Rob and a few others had some discussions about that, but I was not involved in those discussions.
Because I think that you already have the contracts lined up for these projects from Handy Township, do you not?
The sewer is lined up, the RBC's been ordered, and HRC is working on what do we call it?
So the other
Plans and
one,
specifications.
so one is ready, the other one is on the way.
Is on the way. It's in the works to be, I mean, we've commissioned HRC to do the work to get it ready to put out for bid. So, like I say, that's on the two, but I was under the assumption that they were both a go from the Drain Commission side of it. So like I say, and there's no question about it, it's gonna cost way more than $350 to do just the RBC. There's no question about that at this point in time. So whether we split it half and half or whether we take it, it's, I guess I'm concerned that if we're talking of cutting funds back or how we allocate them, I guess is up to you guys. That's
Because I would entertain an amendment to this if we are sure that the the water treatment machine will take up all of that 350, because that's part of the question. If it doesn't take it all up, then we have accounting difficulties. But if we're sure that the $350, $350,000 is not enough to finish the whole RPC project, so that we have no problem retaking the money back that's not used for it. Nick, wasn't that one of your concerns?
Yes, one of my concerns was that Supervisor Alverson indicated that there had not been a quote done yet for what would be the labor for the RBC. We know that the RBC, the cost of it is roughly 250,000 or so. I think 232 to be specific. And without knowing, having a quote for the labor, there was a concern that it could be more, it could be less. And that's why there was no issue with dividing the funds up evenly between the two projects, but to put them towards one project. And then if that project actually comes in under budget, we can't reallocate those ARPA funds after December 31st. And that's why I'm interested, if possible, learning more about the reason behind the separation, or I should say, the reason behind putting, the allocation towards one project.
So I could speak a little bit to that conversation that we had with Supervisor Alverson this morning. Rob and I, the way the plant is built, the roof of the facility is going to have to be lifted and removed using a crane, and the RBC is going to have to be dropped in, and then the roof is going to have to be reinstalled. So, I mean, the thought of doing all that, I mean, knowing what little I know about the facility, I can't imagine that costing less than $150,000 or $200,000.
So I would go back to, because I think it was 2 weeks ago, we approved the current resolution being presented. I guess what changed in the past 2 weeks? I should say, did Supervisor Alverson relay what has changed in the past 2 weeks? Because I know Trustee Munsell said he actually wasn't aware of this.
So my understanding is that the township is firmly committed to getting this RBC installed before the end of the year. I know the water booster station is high on their list, but in between the two, the supervisor felt that the RBC project was what was going to be happening first. So that's for, you know, for what little light I can shed on it, that's what I can tell you.
I want to clarify something because we voted on a resolution earlier this evening with respect to allocating all of the ARPA money. So does that include this project?
Yeah, there are already ARPA funds allocated to the drain, and the initial idea was to reallocate to this. And so, yes, it would have already been included in what was allocated earlier. It would be being directed to a different project.
I object to that. I mean, this is something that hasn't been decided whether we're going to use Vision Tour funds or ARPA funds. So to say that I voted on something earlier this evening, that includes something that wasn't agreed to, I firmly object.
No, that's not. Saying all the ARPA funds are allocated is true. All the ARPA funds are allocated. This was initially a request to take currently our allocated ARPA funds and transfer it to a different project, which is what this discussion was initially about. So what you voted on previously is not contingent upon this because these funds are allocated under ARPA already. The challenge came up with the funding source. Could it be Vision Tour? Could it be ARPA?
So say this doesn't get approved to use ARPA funds, you know, in this discussion now, what does that resolution that we approved earlier tonight look like?
It wouldn't change because there was still funding allocated to the Drain Commissioner's office for these projects. So it wouldn't change the resolution that was earlier tonight. There'd be a decision later as to what to do with that, but the funds are still allocated presently.
So there could conceivably be, we've allocated funding to the Drain Commissioner's office, and say the project doesn't get approved, then we have monies that need to be, you know, used.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if there are any changes from this point forward with ARPA, then obviously we'd have to amend the plan. But as far as what's been allocated, these funds were allocated.
Okay, I will state for the record that if we get into a situation where, you know, that this project doesn't get approved for ARPA funds, and so there's going to be a block of ARPA funds that we allocated, that it is not up to the Drain Commissioner to go out and find a use for it. That is the job of the Board of Commissioners. The Drain Commissioner may know what the priorities are within his office, the Office of Drain Commissioner, but it's the Board of Commissioners who knows the priorities for the whole of the county. So to say that we're going to allow the Drain Commissioner to go decide what is the best use of the money on behalf of the whole county, I can say that there are plenty of projects that I think are of higher priority. Radios has been talked about. Communications towers have been talked about. CAD, computer-aided dispatch, new for EMS bases, those all have, all those projects that I just rattled off are needs of the county that we have to prioritize, but they're needs of the county, not needs of a single township. And we are a Board of Commissioners for the county, and I think we should spend the money on behalf of as many citizens as we can in the county, and we should not cede our authority and our responsibility that is vested in this legislative body. We have the power of the purse. We're supposed to understand what the priorities are. We should not cede that to the Drain Commissioner.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I don't know how our the original ARPA allocations, what the wording was specifically for that. And the first project this money was allocated for was not for a drain project per se, but it was for wastewater in Handy Township. I'm not aware of any other funds that were said to be allocated from the Drain Commission that wasn't for a drain. I think this was one of, and, you know, that might have been, you know, the first project for sure was under the auspices of the Drain Commission. It was the responsibility of the Drain Commission. I think broadly, all of the water treatment plants in the county are maybe not direct, I'm not sure, directly or indirectly, the responsibility of the Drain Commission. The sending of water, which is part of this, I think is not particularly, giving water to a municipality. I don't think that's under the auspices of the drain, but I think all of the water treatment projects that I was involved in Fowlerville and somewhat in Handy, the Drain Commission was always part of that discussion. They were always, that was part of their responsibility. And a lot of the money came through or with approval of the Drain Commission. So that's my understanding anyways.
Commissioner Sample.
We're gonna have to make a decision whether we're gonna vote on it the way it is, or you're gonna amend it or whatever it is, but the allocation of the ARP money was to Handy Township for the Red Cedar drain, which was flowing in the wrong direction. That project could not get in time. It was deemed that way. That's when Handy Township and the Drain Commission posed utilizing that same $350,000 that was allocated to a drain project within a township. So there's been several drain projects that have been allocated within townships. So although this is going to Handy Township, we've approved other drain projects in other townships. So I don't know if what the best activity is here, but it seems to me like we could vote on this resolution the way it is. And then it would be up to the Drain Commission to handle it, right? No?
It wouldn't, because the board has the final authority. And so whatever is written on this paper has to be adhered to the letter. That's why, for example, we couldn't just distribute 350,000 and say, oh, you decide.
No, I'm talking about utilizing the resolution as written.
Right, so that would be okay. 175 towards the neighborhood and 175 towards the RBC. That would be okay. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. One thing I would inquire with with Mr. Norford is, it was brought to my attention yesterday that we couldn't use Vision Tour funds for this project as designated in the resolution, because Vision Tour funds are general funds and therefore it would have to be ARPA funds. Is there confirmation on that? Because given the scope of this project, it seems to me that it does encompass the county and the county resources, and therefore general funds would be permitted.
I don't have an answer as I sit here today. So I was going to suggest, if there's time, that we postpone this so that we can get, I'm concerned with two things. One, which project are we going to approve? It sounds like one or two or both. So I agree with Commissioner Sample's point. We need to make sure that that's clear. The question regarding funding, I have not had a chance to review those emails. I think they were going back Thursday or Friday. I was just emailing with Rich to make sure I get a copy of those. I haven't seen them yet. So I do want to make sure that I have an opportunity to review, and that information will probably be critical to you before you decide which one of these two projects to fund.
Thank you. The other question I would raise is probably for Guidehouse more so, because I don't believe either of these projects have been formally reviewed by Guidehouse. So I know Guidehouse is not here, so I raised that to Administrator Byrd or Mr. Norford, or sounds like.
I saw Administrator Byrd nodding his head. That'll be his point of
I
contact.
believe there's been discussion with him, but I'll verify.
Okay.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
I move to postpone this resolution to the next full board meeting.
Would that be? That should be following the FAM meeting on the 10th.
I was anticipating the fourth Monday. So my motion is to postpone it to the next full board meeting on the fourth Monday of June.
That would be June 24th. I'll support that.
Do you, I have a question, if I could, to Mr. Munsell. Do you know the timing of the, is there a, we know that this project, as we speak right now, the RP, the thing may be failing and we may be in a crisis mode.
The RBC is scheduled to be delivered sometime in October.
Okay.
It's been ordered and Walker, or not, is it Walker? Yeah, Walker's building it. And they have committed to sometime in October delivery. So we got, for that bill, we got some.
Then I support his motion
Fully
to
agree that
postpone.
there, some clarification here needs to be done. I'm fully aware of that because as I told you guys earlier in there, this has all happened in the last couple of days and I'm not aware of any of it myself. So I don't blame you a bit for what you're doing.
Any other questions?
Since it's already been ordered and set to be delivered, how was the township plan to pay for it at the board?
The discussion that we had with Mr. Samples and Mr. Helserman and Ken and Rob and Brian was that they were gonna pay for 175,000 of it and the township was gonna get the rest of it. And then they were gonna take the other 175 and put it towards the booster pump when and if it come happen. And I mean, it's happening. We've already drawn the plans up for it, but we don't have a price on it exactly. But like I say, that was the last conversation I had and that was in what, probably March, February, something like that.
It was a couple months ago. At
Yeah,
least.
that was the last meeting that I've had with the Drain Commission and everybody that we sit down and we've joked the last 2 months at the board meeting, we ain't had to talk RBC for 2 months.
It just, I'm.
So like I say, this conversation that we had with you a little earlier tonight is totally, I didn't know anything about it till you brought that email up, so.
And I found
I'm in
out
as dark
about,
as you are.
yeah, yesterday
So-
on Memorial Day.
I'm fully aware of what you're doing here and I agree with it. I mean, till there's some questions answered here.
I'm just trying to understand for a $250,000 part in a $350,000 project that's already been ordered and the wheels are in motion, but our board has not approved it yet. It seems like that.
Well, basically the original resolution that we applied or went to Brian to get was that they were gonna participate in it to the tune of 350,000, providing you guys gave him those ARPA funds to do that. That's kind of where I'm at, right, Ken?
Yeah.
And this, so it's all contingent, but bottom line is that broke last May. And we went round and around with replacement company till probably what, the 1st of September last fall, before we actually ordered this thing. Over putting a used one in there and they brought 2 or 3 that didn't fit. So then we had to do some other things and finally we decided to order a new one and put it in however we had to at that point.
Okay, I guess
We've
I'm
not spent any money on it at this point. It's all on paper to good me, but it took a little over a year to order this thing to get it done.
Yeah. I guess I'm just trying to understand the process and procedure between the relationship of the township and the county and the drain department. Because I guess I just am curious how that would have been funded if the board did not move forward on this.
There'd have been some money borrowed.
Oh, okay, so
Lots of money.
there's a financing mechanism.
Yes,
That would
yes,
be.
I mean, we've checked with a couple of banks and if this don't happen,
Hmm.
there will be some funding, but like I say, it's gonna cost the taxpayers a whole lot more if we do it that way than if it gets done this way.
I see. Okay. Well, I certainly appreciate your insight and you coming this evening.
It's, but this last 24 hours, I wasn't aware of any of it. So.
Same here.
Anything else? I have a couple of comments. Thank you for asking a question about the funding, because I too was concerned about that. Ken, I guess this is going to be directed to you. Would it be possible for you to attend our FAM meeting on June 10th to give us an update on how this is evolving?
I believe so, yes. Let me just take a quick peek at my calendar.
I don't know that we would necessarily be voting, but I think the way things have been turning and a lot of new information, I think we deserve to be.
Somebody
on top
from
of it.
our office will be here on the 10th.
Okay. And hopefully we'll have a good understanding of the township's position as well at that time. Okay, so a motion was made to postpone. It's been seconded.
Can,
All in favor?
Mr. Gross, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you, Commissioner, could you just clarify who supported that
I did.
motion to postpone? Okay, that's what I had. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
And then Commissioner Helserman thirded it.
Okay. It's hard to see with the screen here. I thought it was your voice, but thank you for the clarification.
We need to vote on that. Yeah, okay, all in favor of the postpone, the amendment to postpone this resolution, so state by saying aye.
Aye.
Clarifying for the minutes, just a motion to postpone was made.
Yeah.
Unanimously approved.
Straight motion.
Okay. And so we previously were scheduled to do a roll call vote. That's no longer necessary. Oh, yeah, thank you. Any opposed to what we've discussed here with respect to the postponement? Hearing none, seeing none, postponement's approved. Looking forward to learning more about this in the next couple of weeks. All right, next on the agenda is Resolution 12S. Comes to us from the Drain Commissioner, resolution authorizing improvements to the Rossington Drain from General Fund Vision Tour funding. Do I hear a motion for discussion?
Motion to approve the resolution.
For approval.
Support, Helserman.
Mr. Recker is here. Any questions of him? As I recall, this was discussed in committee as well. No questions, no comments. Anything to add, Mr. Recker? Only if you have any questions. Apparently not. So this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
and Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next resolution is item 12T as in Tom, also from the Drain Commissioner. Resolution authorizing improvements to the Brighton number 4 drain from General Fund Vision Tour funding. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So move, Helserman.
Motion and support. This, I recall, was discussed in committee and approved. Any further questions? Commissioner Fiani.
If I may, this project's quite a substantial investment. I think the estimate is roughly about 3.2 million overall. Is that?
That's correct.
Given the substantial size of the project and then the county's putting up $1 million towards it, I would just like to cordially ask if perhaps you could respectfully request from the road commission if they'd be willing to contribute towards the county, what the county says for the betterment of roads.
They would be willing to meet with us to discuss it if, if you want to do a work group session or, it certainly is something they're open to discussion on. I've discussed it with the managing director and, he believes the arrangement that, Drain Commissioner John Care has, works well with them for the time being, but we certainly can have a meeting with them to discuss it for sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Helserman.
I think I learned something, that our contribution to the roads is not required by law, but that in the history, in that we as a county do not put any extra general fund dollars into the roads. It was my understanding that this was one way that old commissioners, this is a way that we could put money into the roads. Just simply, and I don't know if that is true, that we don't have to put that in, but that is my understanding that we chose to do that, or maybe we upped the amount that we gave to support the road commission with tax dollars, Livingston County tax dollars.
Would you like me to give an explanation from my knowledge?
If, yes, if you'd like to enlighten us, yes.
I'll do the best I can. So section 151 of the drain code addresses apportionment and review, and I can send a link out to the board members. But section 151 spells out that the drain commissioner shall apportion the county for benefits to public roads, just like it mandates that we assess the township or apportion the township for benefits to public health.
But you could apportion it to the road commission, because they take care of the roads for us.
So the statute really does not address the formation of road commissions, and I don't know if that's an omission perhaps from the date of the statute when it was last comprehensively rewritten. But I think where the confusion comes from is MDOT has a formula for apportioning benefits to roads that it uses with maintenance projects. It's not, I would say, from my experience, used commonly with a petition or large projects like this. But it's that MDOT formula that the state uses, and that Act 51, which is the funding mechanism for the road commission, kind of spells out how if the county elects to charge back its portion of, or a portion of its assessment to the road commission, that's how it would do so. With, the obvious caveat that I've rarely talking to a group of residents or spoken to a group of residents that think their roads are being over maintained. So.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would like to chime in on the discussion. The statute allows, and I don't have a citation of the specific statute or the administrative rule. I believe it's an administrative rule, but if the Drain Commission follows the guidelines in the statute or administrative rule, it enables the portion that's a charge to the county for county road benefits to be split 50-50 between the County Board of Commissioners and the County Road Commission. But you have to follow some specific guidelines, is my understanding.
But, you know, yeah, my understanding was that whatever that agreement was, we decided, past boards decided to take, you know, to
If-
take that as a
If,
gift
if I may,
to the roads.
when Brian was elected drain commissioner in 1996, Commissioner Rudnicki had set the apportionment to the county for road benefits at 50%. So the apportionment for road benefits in 1996 was 50%, which Brian reduced to 35% because he felt that 50% was excessive at the time. So, but in terms of answering your other question about the rationale behind the percentage is for most of the first, I'll say, decade I was here, and some of the time Commissioner Domas was here, that was the Board of Commissioners rationale, was it was an indirect way for them to support road maintenance efforts because most of our drains do cross county roads.
Do you recall if there was a resolution that memorialized that working arrangement?
I would say you would have to look at specific votes on pledges of full faith and credit for projects, which there were several. But that's how that would have been endorsed, would be through resolutions pledging full faith and credit for those roles. Ken, I've got a question. So you said back when Brian was elected to be the drain commissioner more than 25 years ago, it was 50-50. And then at some point he decided that that was a little excessive and he changed it to 35. Did he have to get concurrence from the road commission to go along with that? Do you recall? I didn't, the way that section 151 of the drain code reads, the drain commissioner sets that percentage. Okay. So he would not have gotten concurrence from the road commission to set that percentage. But my understanding in terms of the use of 14A is that the road commission could be charged 50% of the 14A calculation as we currently assess the drains for road benefits. But I could also get some clarification of that from legal counsel prior to the next FAM meeting. Would there be, that would be great information to get, but would there be any benefit to consider now changing the 35%, say to 25 or some other number? Has that ever come up? Well, I mean, Brian said I wasn't here at the last meeting, and now I'm gonna say he's not here because yeah, that's really Brian's purview to make that call. I mean, okay. Obviously the thing the use of these ARPA revision tour funds reduces the overall role. So, if we had to levy the $3.2 million project, you've got to look at the 35% of that percentage versus the 35% of the 2.2 million or whatever it's going to end up being, less the vision tour funds. But, I think we need to set a meeting with the road commission and kind of lay out our case and we can take questions.
I'd be appreciative of being part of that discussion, that meeting.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be good. Okay. We've got a resolution that's been moved and supported, and we've had some discussion. Any other questions or commentary?
It was more of a question for Commissioner Fiani. He had mentioned about getting clarification from the road commission? Is it your intent to want to get that clarification before we approve this resolution, or is it otherwise?
That was not my intent. So I am supportive of approving the resolution as is before getting that clarification. But I'm also hopefully optimistic that the road commission would be eager to continue this relationship and help provide some fund on such a substantial project.
Thank you.
Any other concerns at all? Okay, this item is a roll call vote, so may we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
No.
Commissioner Dreck,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Next resolution, move along, is 12U. Also from the Drain Commissioner. It's a resolution authorizing improvements to the Fowlerville Village Drain from the Vet General Fund Vision Tour funding. Do I have a motion for approval?
So move Helserman.
And this, as I recall, was also approved in committee, but Mr. Rucker is here. Any questions or comments on this one? Hearing none, seeing none. This is also a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas.
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreck,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gross.
Yes,
Motion carries.
it's approved 9-0. Thank you. Next resolution, amazingly, from the Drain Commissioner once more. 12V as in Victor. Resolution authorizing improvements to the Sharp Drain from the General Fund Vision Tour funding. Do I have a motion for approval?
So move Helserman.
Ford Smith.
This also was discussed in committee. Any further questions or commentary? Hearing none, seeing none. This also requires a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Dreck,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross.
Yes,
Motion carries.
approved 9-0. Thank you. Thank you. And at last, none from the Drain Commissioner. Next resolution is 12W as in William. It's a resolution authorizing the purchase and installation of boiler systems and components. Comes to us from Facility Services. Do I hear a motion for approval?
Domas, support Deaton.
This also was discussed and approved in committee. Any further questions or commentary? Hearing none, seeing none, this also requires a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Dreck,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes,
and Commissioner Helserman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
we are on a roll. Next on the agenda is Resolution 12X. Comes to us from Facility Services. It's a resolution authorizing the purchase of jail rooftop HVAC units. Here a motion for approval.
So move Helserman.
Support Deaton.
As with the others, this was approved in committee. Any questions or commentary? Hearing none, seeing none, this likewise is a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross.
Yes,
Motion carries.
motion is, resolution's approved. Thank you. Next, Resolution 12Y comes to us from Facility Services. It's a resolution authorizing an agreement with Evergreen Outdoor Incorporated to provide grounds maintenance, lawn care, and snow removal services. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So move Helserman.
I'll support. This likewise was discussed in committee and approved. Any further questions or commentary? Commissioner Nakagiri.
Question for Director Eggleston. Do you, could you inquire with the Evergreen Outdoor Services? I mean, this isn't going to change my vote, but to see if they use for their employees that they hire, do they use E-Verify to confirm that they are US citizens? If you could do that, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Any other comments? Commissioner Fiani.
Director, is this resolution time sensitive, or would it be possible to, if it were to be postponed to say in 2 weeks from now, would that cause any issues?
Yeah, I believe it would. The contract is up for, it is up on June 1st.
And there's no type of, I want to say, holdover clause on the current contract?
You are correct. I believe that there is. We could postpone, and I'll just have to continue doing work as is for the time being.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Fiani, you wish to suggest or try to postpone?
Well, based upon Commissioner Nakagiri's request, I would be, I would have a change of heart on supporting this if I found out unanticipated results of the E-Verify. With that being said, though, I don't want to put our director in a difficult position from a labor and timing standpoint. So I am okay with not postponing it unless there seems to be a consensus among the board that has a desire to postpone it. And if that's deemed, then I would be okay with making that motion.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
I'll make the motion to postpone it till the full board meeting that follows FAM.
That would be June 10th. Director Eggleston, you think you can have that information in the next several weeks?
I'm sure I could have it over tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, please let us know what your findings are as soon as you can, but we will plan on having this item on the agenda for FAM or after FAM on June 10th.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Maybe this is for our administrator. If we do find that this company or the company is not using E-Verify, as the contract stands, would that be something that we could renegotiate or pull out of this contract?
Mr. Chair, would you like me to answer that?
Mr. Chair.
Oh, yes.
So I do know that our office previously reviewed the contract. It's very likely that it has a 30-day out clause for any reason or 60 days. So you could trigger that clause at that point. If you did find information that was unfavorable as far as the requirement related to E-Verify. But that being said, you do have a motion support on the table for postponing to June 10th. So the debate would be limited to that issue at this time.
Okay, so we have a motion to postpone June 10th. Some additional information will be provided. All in favor of postponement, so saying aye.
Aye.
Postponement is approved. Oh, any opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay,
I think we're protected.
so it's approved 8-1. Okay, we are getting close to the end. The next item on the agenda is Resolution 12Z, as in zebra. Also comes to us from Facility Services. It's a resolution authorizing agreements with the Structure Tech Restoration and John Stewart Associates LLC to provide as-needed construction management services for minor projects. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So move, Hauserman.
Thank you. Motion's been made and supported. This also was discussed in committee. Any further comments or questions? Commissioner Smith.
I would just point out that anytime we have an outside contractor, we could delay the contract execution because of concerns over the hiring of non-citizens or non-visa holders. So I think whatever we find in the previous motion, we ought to set the parameters for all future outside contractors going forward. So give that a little think as we look at another set of contractors here. So whatever we do, let's just be uniform and let's set a procedure so that our directors can know what the program is going forward. Thank you.
Any other comments? Commissioner Sample.
Was there any offer for less than 5-year contract on this?
No, that was the RFP put out on the street.
Is that typical for this type of agreement?
Correct, it is. That's what procurement requests in these RFPs. We've moved from a 3-year with 2 1-year renewals to a strict 5-year. That's just what procurement has recommended.
Do you have any thoughts?
When you say procurement recommends, who are you talking about?
Our fiscal services department,
Okay.
and specifically procurement will be kind of the leader of those RFPs and RFQs in conjunction with CoPro, our procurement vendor.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Chair, just want to know, we will have early out clauses when we approve these contracts as to form. So although they are for a term, if there's a problem, the board can simply send notice if you're satisfied to terminate the agreement. What would be the reason? I mean, what would be, is there justification for the reason or is it any reason? It's any reason. That's
Any.
what I like. Yep. That's why we hired you guys.
Yep, based on performance.
Yeah.
Dr. Geary, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. Commissioner Smith, I agree with his sentiment exactly. We really ought to have a standard policy, for all contracts. So the entirety of the county, the management, the directors, anybody who's to know what, I'll say what the rules are. So I just want to say I agree with my colleague, Commissioner Smith.
Could we have a resolution drafted by someone to that effect and put through committees?
Nathan St.
Mr. Chair. You know, I'm just saying.
I'm happy to spearhead that.
I was gonna say, I'm happy to take it up under finance if the administration would like to draft it, or I would delegate to Commissioner Nakagiri and sips it, so.
Somebody should do it.
Right, our administrator was nodding his head, so perhaps we have a small subcommittee that can meet to do that.
Let's get it done.
I was gonna say, we may want to check our current policies. We may have this requirement already as part of the procurement procedure.
And please let us know then as soon as you're able to. Any other questions or comments, concerns with respect to this resolution? Hearing none, Z is a voice vote. All in favor, so state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Approved 9-0. Next item on the agenda is resolution item 12AA. Also from Facility Services. It's a resolution authorizing additional funds for the 2024 site lighting operation budget project. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved, Helserman.
Support Deaton.
This item was also discussed in committee. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, seeing none. This is a roll call vote. May we have that, please?
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas.
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani.
Yes.
And Commissioner Gross.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And last but not least, resolution item 12AB. Also from Facility Services, it's a resolution authorizing renovations to the Livingston County Sheriff's Office. Do I hear a motion for approval?
I'll move the resolution, Mr. Chair.
Support, Smith.
Resolution's been moved and supported. This was also discussed in committee, as I recall. Any further comments? Commissioner Drick.
Thank you, Commissioner. Director Eggleston, in the prior resolution, it talked about a $5,000 in contingency funds. This resolution brings to my mind whether there's any contingency funds in the fencing number or the furniture number or the interior modifications or the final IT numbers. Did any of those have any contingencies already in them?
No, they did not.
Okay, that's what I suspected. So if we had a 10% contingency on the total, which appears to be 127,000 and some change, that would be about a $3,000 contingency if we went with 10%. I'm not understanding why we have a $47,000 ceiling, which, because you say not to exceed the 175.
Mhm.
So is there a reason that we need 47,000 in contingency?
No, there's no specific reason.
What would be a good percentage to make as a contingency on the 127? That's the total of the four.
I believe you're correct. Anywhere from 5 to 10% would be a standard contingency in these renovation projects.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you see, Mike, do you see a bigger contingency needed than 10%?
I'll leave that one up to
Okay.
Director Eggleston.
I didn't want to cut you out.
No, appreciate that. 10%'s about 12 grand.
Yep.
My phone failed me. Okay.
Got my shoes, but I got that one.
All right, so 127 plus 12 is 139, make it a 140. My motion to amend is not to exceed $140,000, which then covers everything we've talked about. Motion to amend.
Support.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Further discussion on that?
And I'm only amending the not to exceed in the first therefore. Okay.
This is a roll call vote on the resolution, but on the amendment, I think that can be a voice.
Correct.
All in favor of the amendment, so to change the not to exceed from 175 to 140, so state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the amendment has been passed, and now we will proceed with the roll call vote on the amended resolution. Yes.
So given this amendment being made, there is a outstanding project right now that's being proposed for the animal shelter. It has to do with HVAC, and the scenario is there was roughly $100,000 allocated for it, but the project cost is roughly $190,000. So there's a shortfall of roughly $90,000. With that being the case, I'm wondering, I would like to gauge the board's temperature on using this roughly $35,000 that's not going towards the sheriff office and jail renovation towards that project, towards the HVAC project. Basically, I'm seeking to find out, does the majority of the board want to do it? Does the majority of the board not want to do that? Or does the majority of the board want more time to think about it?
Question. Is it in the capital improvement plan? Because that's where this money was coming out of.
So
For the animal shelter.
Yes, yep, no, that's a great question. So the animal shelter project would have to go to the capital improvement plan if it didn't get taken up, split between ARPA and split between ARPA and what we have as general fund contingency, not vision contingency, but general fund contingency, which is a roughly $600,000 budget.
So not
Yeah.
to cloud this any,
Yeah.
but this was a capital improvement from the sheriff's office that was approved like 3 or 4 years ago for $1 million spread over that time. So just so you're clear on that.
Would you have, I guess my first question then is, would you have objection to that?
I don't think we have anything, but I would like,
Okay.
to.
Have some
I'd like to
further-
entertain a motion to postpone that as well.
Oh.
Let me go back and check with my team. I think that's about all we've got left. Maybe there's 100 and some thousand. You know, we pulled ahead some money a couple of years ago because it made sense to have, well, we had the contractors and stuff in there, but if we're good, I'd be happy to give the animal shelter the rest of it, Frank. But let me just check with my team if you could be so kind to do that.
That would be phenomenal. Thank you. I second your motion.
So do we have a commissioner motion to postpone?
Oh, no.
Don't need it.
No.
Because it's not a resolution on the agenda.
Any other questions or commentary? We'll need a roll call vote on the amended resolution.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross.
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
motion carries.
That concludes our resolutions on the agenda tonight. Would you like me to continue, Mr. Chairman, finish it out?
You're doing a fine job.
Thank you, sir. Item 13 on our agenda is our accounts payable reports, claims dated May 28th and payables dated April 28th through May 17th of 2024. Do I hear a motion to approve those?
So moved, Nakagiri.
Support, Helserman.
Voice vote, all in favor, so state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. That item is approved. With that, we reach item number 14, which is our second call to the public. Anybody in the room turn in a card.
I do have several cards. The first is Chuck Wright from Handy Township, followed by Gordon Munsell.
Just a word of caution for the second call of public, you have 2 minutes.
I'll try to keep it brief again. Tonight's meeting, you had 28 resolutions and a whole bunch of other votes on other things. And there was only one no vote this evening. And I assume as we go into closing the meeting out, there's going to be no votes to adjourn. But I go back to a report that Commissioner Nakagiri gave earlier this evening. He says we need 4 officers in the courts, and we currently have 12. And if this isn't solved, it costs us about $1 million a year. It's only going to get worse and probably go into perpetuity. I find that very alarming. The budget for judicial in the last full year of 2023 was $12 million. Our proposed budget for 2025 is $15 million. I didn't take my shoes off to count, but that's 25% increase. So these two numbers don't line up. And as we're going through the budget process, I'd certainly like to hear a lot more no's coming out of you gentlemen. Earlier, during the first call to public, I spoke about the Handy Township wastewater treatment plant. And I was in favor of moving forward. I'm embarrassed by what I saw going on up here this evening. Nobody seems to know where the money's coming from or where it's being spent. That resolution should have been pulled from the agenda. I'm surprised. I'm embarrassed. You guys did the right thing by delaying 1 month to get some answers, and I hope you do. Thank you.
Gordon Munsell from Handy Township, followed by Ella Nikitin.
I guess a couple of things. I fully agree with what you postponed tonight because as a member of the Sewer and Water Committee, Handy Township, I'm like Chuck, I was a little embarrassed to have the questions asked that were asked because I will find some answers out myself tomorrow. The other thing is I'd like to compliment you guys on what you do. I think part of the audience doesn't understand business when they want to still live in a rural community with nobody coming here and yet they want a full bus service. I'm not sure how they're going to pay for that or why they want it if they don't want anybody to come to town. I've lived here all my life and have Livingston County, Fowlerville in particular. As I look around this room, I'm probably one of the oldest taxpayers in this community. And as far as I'm concerned, your 3% you're putting on this community transit business is way too much. So that's, just keep that thought in mind. I think if you want to get around, you can get around some way, but it shouldn't be falling on the taxpayers. Other than that, you guys did a good job.
Ella Nikitin from Heartland Township.
Hi, I wanted to really quickly comment on one of the postponements that happened today. Specifically the one for the resolution about the lawn services and the facility service. I think that's what it was. You know, we had one person, you know, Helserman say that, you know, it is safe to have the resolution as it's passed now, as it's written now, go forward. And it seems like, you know, the reason for postponing here is a little bit concerning to me. You know, now why are we so concerned about this issue? You know, they supposedly, you know, I imagine if they are bidding on this contract, then they would have, you know, made sure that they're in compliance with the regulations that on the use of E-Verify here. Yeah. And the other thing is, like, I was looking at the text, it's starts June 1st, 2024, we're gonna be cutting into that if it's postponed. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I have no further cards.
I see there's one hand on Zoom.
Yes, Commissioner, I have Cindy McNevich.
Okay.
Good evening, Cindy McNevich from Hamburg Township. About 6 months ago, I think, $150,000 of the ARPA funds had been allocated to by the Board of Commissioners to Brighton area schools to start an ROTC program. Last month, the Brighton area schools announced that it will not be implementing the program in the fall because they did not get sponsorship from the Navy. They're looking into other sponsorships, but they only had 2 students interested. I think it would be prudent that you follow this because that's $150,000 that could be spent in different ways if they're not going to be using that for a program. And that deadline is, as you know, December 2024. Also, you might want to look into your policy, and if for hiring contractors, if you have that you pay prevailing wage, these contractors might not have to hire immigrants. They might have citizens that would be willing to work for prevailing wage to do that type of job. Thank you.
Any other call-ins on Zoom?
I do not see any, Commissioner.
I don't see any either. So I will close the call to the public and entertain a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting.
So move, Helserman.
Support Nakagiri.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We are adjourned.